Well, today is Friday. It's the Friday update for the week, and it's the end of July. My brother's birthday is around the corner. My wife Judy's birthday is in August as well. It's the dog days of summer. And a lot of you might think, well, there's not much good fishing going on, but that's where you're wrong. There is some really good fishing going on. Right now, we're at Bob's Jack Plates. Okay, that's one of the products I have in the back of my boat, and I needed to pick up some equipment for that. I was just over at Power Pole as well, right here in Tampa, and then I got my Power Pole all squared away, and it's just working 100%. It's, by the way, the best trolling motor I've ever seen in my life. It's just, I rave about it all the time. But back to the fishing. The fishing this week was pretty sensational. I left last Sunday to go up to the Potomac River. And when I got up to the Potomac River, I met up with this guy by the name of Brian Barnes. Now, Brian Barnes is a guide on the Potomac River. He also guides for Ken Penrod. You've seen me do many films with Ken. Over the years, I've probably done maybe 7 or 8 films with Ken. And guys like, I don't know, Teddy Carr and a whole bunch of his other guides that actually filmed with them as well. So the Potomac River is an old stomping ground. I've also won tournaments on the Potomac River. So that's what was the first step, the first stage of our film work was fishing for bass around the Mattawoman Creek, the Smallwood State Park. It's a beautiful facility. You know, the Potomac River is a huge estuary. It's the largest river that feeds the Chesapeake Bay. Now, the Chesapeake Bay is the largest estuary in the United States. It's gigantic, and I'm going to take you out there on some film work later in this week as well with my good friend Chuck O'Bier. But for right now, we're fishing the Potomac River, which is a big system. Mattawoman Creek is a big system. When I got there, I had the preconceived idea that, okay, they're probably going to hit a frog. My favorite fish is, of course, bass on the Potomac River. My favorite way of catching bass on the Potomac River is with a spro frog. But, you know, preconceived ideas aren't always the thing, because I was all set up with my black spro frogs. I even had some bronze eye 65s. I had some buzz frogs that I'd made up that I just kind of fooled with some buzz frog deals. Anyway, I thought the frog was really going to pay off, and unfortunately, it didn't really pay off. But when I got there, Brian said this. He said, Roland, he says, the tide is real high. There's probably not much grass to fish with the frog because everything's deep underwater because of the high tide. So maybe we ought to throw some spinner baits, some action baits, some swim baits, maybe even a chatterbait. I said, chatterbaits, that's the deal. So I pulled out my trusty chatterbait rod. This is a rod that I put down to the headwaters when I fish down there. I give this to my clients. It is such an easy lure to fish. This is the jackhammer series. This is the half-ounce jackhammer series, and I put a big fluke on the back, white fluke, okay? Now, the thing about why I like a chatterbait is it's an easy lure to fish. All I have to do is throw it out, make a nice long cast, and just reel it back in. And with braid, I'm using 20-pound braid. They thump it, and boy, you can really set the hook. I've got a pretty solid, pretty heavy rod here, so it's not a bad deal. But anyway, that's one good combination. Jackhammer series. Now, what Brian had this other lure. He said, Roland, he says, that jackhammer is a pretty good lure, but why don't you try my little chatterbait? What it is, it's one that he just calls it a chatterbug or something. I don't even know what he calls it. And he makes them himself, and this is the bluegill color. It's funny because my other cameraman, Tyler South, he fishes Okeechobee a lot and fishes the headwaters a lot, and he likes this bluegill color as well. So jackhammer in the chatterbait series, they make a bluegill, and this is the bluegill series right here. So with the gold blade, and that's the bluegill skirt and a little trailer. Anyway, I'm throwing it on 50-pound braid, and again, it's just like the spinning rod. I just make a nice long cast. This is this happens to be 50-pound braid. This is the good favorite reel. This is my choice, and this is that Pro Series 7-foot rod that we helped develop. My son Scott and Andy Morgan and a whole bunch of us, we got together and made a Pro Series for favorite. Anyway, that's another really good combination. Well, anyway, make a long story short, we get out there it was about 1 o'clock in the afternoon. It was about 95 degrees. The sun was out bright, and I told Brian, I said, do you think they're going to bite? He says, the high tide is kind of the bad conditions. We pulled in on the first grass bed. I think the second cast I caught a bass. The third cast. It was really quick. And then he caught one, and I caught one. We made one little drift down this one grass bed and caught 10 keeper bass. Several of them were in the 3-pound class. Now, when you have to think about tournaments and think about good fish on the Potomac River, you're thinking about 3-pound fish. Now, 3-pound fish is a nice big 17 or 18-inch fish. And when they're 4 pounds, they're closer to 20 inches, and they're nice and big and fat and healthy. And that's what we caught a couple 4s as well. So really, we had a really good string. I said to Brian, I said, what's a really good stringer fish right now on the Potomac River? You know, what you can catch? He said, if you catch 17 or 18 pounds, you got a good stringer. Well, we had 17 or 18 pounds that first afternoon pretty quick. Well, anyway, we tried some frogs. The tide got so we went back into the end of the thing and we fooled with the frog. We caught one little fish on the frog. We tried some worms, caught a little fish on a worm. We said, well, let's go back to Chatterbait. So we went back to Chatterbait and we caught more fish. Well, okay, Tuesday morning comes along, bright and early. We get up before the sun comes up and we're going to get out there. It's low water, it's low tide. It's the perfect conditions. We're in Mattamovin Creek. We go in with the frog. We take our good Spro frog, and I got it on 65-pound braid. And I'm ready to go with it. And I got my heavy duty Spro rod. And I got this. I used this frog right here. Well, it's this one. This is the Pro 60. And what it is, it's a Pop 60. And I take a different hook. See, this is the 3/0 hook in that thing. And this is the 4/0 hook in this Bronzeye series. So I take the hooks out of the Bronzeye series and put in that. It makes it a better hookup ratio. Anyway, we got to throw in that combination, knowing we're just going to kill some really big 4-pound bass. Nothing much happened, just a couple small ones. So we went back to the Chatterbait, bam, a 4-pound bass, bam, a 3-pound bass. And we had a beautiful film catching a largemouth bass on the Potomac River on Chatterbaits. That was the end of Tuesday. Well, then the second part of the show is I'm going to go down and see my good friend Chuck O'Bier. Now, I've fished with Chuck. You see me on the Sea Fox, that big old 30 or 44-foot boat that Chuck has out of Lucetta, Virginia. Anyway, Chuck fishes for bluefish. He fishes for mackerel. He fishes for cobia a lot. You know, see me do a bunch of cobia film last year. We fished for those big bull reds down in the lower bay, the Chesapeake Bay, down by Norfolk. We caught some big bull reds with his son David last year. That was really good. So Chuck says, okay, I get there Tuesday afternoon. Okay, the deal is Wednesday, we've got a good calm weather. We're probably going to go out of the bay because it's going to be good calm weather on the bay. And he's got a spotter plane. They're doing this Menhaden deal where they're running these Menhaden nets, and one of his friends flies an airplane where they spot the schools of Menhaden. Well, as he flies his plane around, they spot schools of those big bull drum. I'm talking about bull reds that are 30, 40, 50 pound, 60 pound fish. So anyway, Chuck and I get out there, and we're not out there long. And this is so funny. This is the rod right here. No, this is the rod right here. Well, it's this rod. I think it's this rod. I can't remember which rod it was. It was one of these rods. It was something like this. Maybe it wasn't exactly this combination, but it's close to it. And what we did, it was this deal here. It was this rod. I think it was that same hook. 50-pound braid. 50. This isn't a really big rod. It's the old Salty series. We pulled around the spotter plane, said there's a school here, and this other charter boat was out here. One of his friends he was communicating with on the radio. He said, there's a big school of bull reds right there. Chuck get into him with his side finder. He said, Roland, we're in them. Drop your bait down. So I'm in the back of the boat. I dropped this bait down at the bottom. It's about 30 foot deep. It's a train. Don't worry about it. It's a train going by. We're in Tampa. We're right in the middle of Tampa. Right there. There's a commuter train doing about 70 miles an hour. But anyway, we're right here at Bob's. Getting work done, and it's just really a neat deal. But anyway, I dropped this thing down, and I hooked almost a 40-pound bull red. It spooled me, got all the way to the end of the line, and there was all but the knot on the line. I'm yelling to Chuck, back the boat up, and he did at the last minute. He backed the boat up, and luckily I didn't break him off, and we landed him. We got that on camera. Well, then the rest of the day, we caught a bunch of bluefish on trolling some rigs. We caught a bunch of mackerel trolling the rigs. And I said, okay, Chuck, that's part of the film. What are we going to do Thursday? He said, Thursday. We're going to go up the Potomac River, and we're going to do another deal on the Potomac River. In fact, what he did, he took this same outfit that we were fishing bull reds, and we started throwing these big jigs on we launched near the 301 bridge on the Potomac River. And anyway, the tide was just starting to come back in. It was low tide going out. It was still going outgoing tide. And we got on these big lights and some of these marker buoy areas, lots of rocks and a bunch of shallow water. And the water was good. And that Move trolling motor is so cool because it has an anchor feature. It's like a spot lock on the Minn Kota, but it's called an anchor. And you hit the anchor, and even in the strong current, that boat would hold perfect. It just does 100%. And so sure enough, we started throwing it. We caught like 10 striped bass real quick. And we were catching the first couple on these big jigs like this. Well, and I said to Chuck, I said, you know, I've made a lure years ago for scroll tackle. In fact, this is my lures right here. It's called the Aruca shad. If you look at the back of the Aruca shads, you see my name on the back. You see Roland Martin, sports professional. Anyway, that's the small Aruca shad. So what I did, I took one of these larger Aruca shads, this one right here, in fact. This is the big 1 ounce one, or almost 1 ounce. And I put it on 50-pound braid, the same thing that I caught that big 40-pound bull red on the day before. Throw this, a nice long cast into that current. What you're looking for is the current comes around the rocks, makes like a little eddy. We just throw it right in there and just throw it in and hang on, and bam, we caught like 10 nice stripers, you know, a couple, 3 pounds. But it was pretty fun. Anyway, the tide changed, and that was the end of that. But so we made a great film. We came back here to Tampa today. Today's Friday, and that's the update. So listen, folks, we had a great time filming this week. It was it's exciting up on the Chesapeake Bay. It's alive and well. The fish are doing really well. There's more grass in the Potomac and more bass than I think I've ever seen. So it was a really, really good time. And thanks again for watching. And hit that likes button, because every time you do, my Raleigh people and my Bass Pro Shop people, they really appreciate it. And I hope I taught you a few things and explained a few things about our great fishing this week. We'll see you again soon.